So, everywhere in the US has their own politics, right? Especially amongst racial tensions, everything like that. Like if you go out to LA, the Latinos and the blacks,
There's that
it's a
line.
different.
There's that line. Yeah, I get it.
Right, there's a line there. Now in New York, you hear people talk about, us Latinos, we grew up right next to the blacks. We a lot of times we viewed each other as one and the same, and but then you hear other people talk about there was racial tension, that we didn't like each other. It's
Nah, but that's
so
yeah. I'm gonna break that down. Look, I grew up in black neighborhoods. Yeah, there's picking here and there, whatever, whatever. I had the reverse racism happen, but in the street is different. When you go to prison is when the racism starts. I never really knew what racism was. Like, yeah, whatever. I grew up, he picked on me, whatever. We used to fight, whatever. But it wasn't like, oh, fuck that, spick, or you know what I'm saying, like, or use the N word and that, and that to attack someone. It was never in my vocabulary or even came to. When I went to prison, is when I saw.
but this is you personally.
This is me personally. What I saw.
Okay.
Prison, it becomes more of a racial. The Spanish will be like, yo, papi, come over here. Don't go over there with them blacks. Come over here with these people. And vice versa. And you see, you know what I mean? Like before, when the first time I went to Rikers, it was more of a borough thing. Brooklyn over here, Bronx over there, Manhattan over here. Westchester County used to have a little bullshit section. Everybody, we wanted to shit on Westchester at the time and on Queens. But that's what was going on at the time. So it was just boroughs or area codes where you was from. If you was 718 or you was whatever 516, 631, whatever area code you was from, that's how they were checking you. Then it evolved to gangs. Did it come out? I mean, when you look at it, all the Latinos bunched up into one thing, yeah, it could look that way. But were they running down and extorting the blacks? Was they running down and just bullying the blacks because they were black? That's the different narrative that you got to see from even the COs, from everybody who's like, nah, that wasn't happening on that level. That's not what we were doing. You know what I'm saying?
Because in New York, it's common for Latinos to say the N word, right? Because you're growing up.
I do sometimes. It slips. I try
Right.
to, but it's different because the N word that we use doesn't have the R at the end.
Right, exactly.
So,
but what I'm saying though is like if you are in other parts of the country,
oh no, I
even
know
if
it's
you
happened to me. It's happened to me.
right,
Flipped, and people look at me crazy, and I'll be like, "Yo, I apologize. That's not how I meant it." And because you forget, like a lot of people suffered and really went through a lot of things in life because of those words, and so it's like we take that for granted in New York because in New York, it's like, it's part of the hip hop scene. You've grown up around. Your best friend is black and you're going around and everybody uses that word very freely out here. Like it's been like that for 30 years. It's not something that just happened yesterday. It's been around for 30 years. But yeah, you go to the West Coast, you go to especially down south, when you
right.
get around older folks and you use that word, I think it's like a sting. Like you really trying to like throw, I don't know, bro. It's like, I really, really see it, and that's why I catch myself. I try to think about every word I say, even when it's my homeboys. It's a fucked up thing when you think about the history of the word. It's kind of fucked up. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But so while you're growing up on the street level, you didn't see discrimination
Nah,
between the two communities.
not like that. Nah, not with us. I saw it with. All right, for instance, the first time I really saw like racial wild shit was when they closed down Yonkers High. When they closed down Yonkers High, they was integrating a lot of the students to Lincoln. Lincoln is in a predominantly Portuguese Albanian community, and it's private houses. That area up there is like the nice area of Yonkers. They're sending us from South Yonkers, which is the slums that we live in, buildings and shit, projects, and I don't know the little 3 fake project buildings like.
Right.
So they sending us now to this school, and it got to the point that even there was a couple of bodies that dropped. The Albanians had killed a kid in the bathroom, a black kid in the bathroom. Riots were popping off. It got really, really racial um, at that time. And I believe that was like 85. I think it was like 85. If I'm not mistaken, it was 85, 84. Because it was like 10th grade. Like, yeah, it was 84, 85. It was like about 15. I was like in 10th grade. Yeah, it was about that time. But it got to the point that half the students, they had to send us to other schools because it got crazy. They sent some to Saunders. They sent some of us to Roosevelt, some to Gordon. They started, instead of sending everybody to Lincoln, they had to stop sending us over there because of the racial tensions in that neighborhood. Like, they was really like grown men, diesel motherfuckers with tattoos all over the shit in front of the school with baseball bats, not letting the kids into the school.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, this was in the 80s. Like, that was the first time I ever seen it. And like, I look white, you know what I'm saying? Well, I am white, whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? We're not going to get into that debate again, but, I felt it, I felt it, you know what I mean? Cause I used to go to school with two of my best friends were black. My boy Eric and Levi. One of them used to live in Slow Bombs, which is the projects. And Eric's mom came from like a wealthy family, so they had a nice house. We always used to hang out there. So those were my two best friends growing up. So I used to always be with them. And the moms and all them used to treat me like, where you bringing this white boy over to my house? And I'd be like, I came from them Chipmans. Where's the So, they used to treat me like family. That was my best friends. But when we went to that school, I really saw what, you know what I mean? Like, everything else was like jokes and games too. We saw how serious it was. It was serious. There was grown men. When I'm telling you grown men, it was dudes in their 40s, 30s, 40s, and we was like 14 years old. They started outside with back in the days, the IROCs and the fucking Monte Carlos and the Grand Nationals with the fucking tank tops full of tattoos and shit. It was like, shit was bugged out, bro. Like,
That's crazy.
yeah, bro. It was a bugged out. That's the first time I've really seen what racism was like, to understand what my friends went through. It wasn't really like I felt threatened, but to see my friends feeling that way, damn, Poe been blowing me up. Yo, I got like fucking. We were supposed to go to dinner. I was like, yo, this guy hit me up like crazy. Like, yo, what the fuck? What the fuck you talking to Panda about for so much?
Yo, okay. Last part. Okay.
Nah, it's already. I'm not going out. It's 11 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
Work in the morning.
All right. But because like when you talk about Cuba, you talk about Puerto Rico and stuff like that. You got some of the African blood through the slave trade, and you know what I'm saying. And,
Definitely do.
right, and then obviously the Spaniards. You got the blood there.
I mean,
In
if you go to Puerto
Rico,
Rico, you see the castles that are still there. And Morro is a castle. You go to Colombia and Cartagena, the castle's there. Cuba, the castle's there. So, like, the Spaniards did a lot of the thing. What the thing was with the Spaniards, yeah, they conquered. I'm not gonna say they didn't, but a lot of them went and made families in the places that they conquered and stayed there. So the bloodlines got mixed up. Like, let's be realistic. What pure bloodline is there nowadays?
right?
Let's be
It's
realistic.
very hard.
It's
Very hard
very
to
hard
find.
unless you're going into like the Amazons or somewhere where it's like one of these lost tribes that never been, or up in like Bolivia in the mountains that they're like indigenous people, or in Australia or
Facts. Yeah.
people. There's nothing is pure anymore. So it's like it's just different. It's different, bro.
And in those type of areas though, like there is colorism that exists too because of your genes. Like
Of
you can
course.
tell, like, oh, you got more of the African, you got more of the Spaniard. Like you got, it's like different stuff like that, right?
Of
So when I see these comments on YouTube and stuff like that, it makes me sad because like I'm of the mindset of just love everybody, bro. Like and I understand that that's just like it's unrealistic to
I don't
ask.
love everybody. I don't love everybody, but not because of color. I just don't like people.
Right, but you know what I mean though, right?
I,
Like to
I
not hate
I'm
somebody and
trying to be
discriminate because of their,
I was trying to tone it down a little bit because when you start talking about race and stuff, it's just a lot of crazy things going on in this planet. It's the difference. Like, let's say we were all the same color, we'd still be fighting about religion.